the Mammar. Let me bring up the shared document. Okay. Area. This is starting now. Okay, we're going to bring up the shared document. Let me just bring it down. We're learning the Mammar. Hine called the Hine Zayba Medalga Lahar Mekabetz Ala Gvois. So this is already Mammarim for hello Reb Shimon. This is already a Mammar for Shemais. This is a pasuk in Shir Hashirim called Daidi. I hear the sound of my beloved Hine Zayba Medalig Alaharim. He's jumping over the mountains, Mekabetz Ala Gvois, leaping over the mountains, jumping over the hillsides. Which means the Alter Rebbe says, Shedileg Keitz HaYeshua, that, so to say, God skipped over the time of redemption. Mitaf Lamed, the Alter Rebbe uses the longer version, meaning 430 years, till Redushana to 210 years. So the actual exile wasn't as long as it could have been. So that's the jumping of the time. What does it mean to have redemption spiritually? Like it says, you have salvation from the right side. It says, Tzaddik v'noisha, the Hashem is like is righteous, and He gives us salvation. So in order to understand what is the idea, to understand what is the idea of the geula, which is a Yeshua, we have to, salvation, we have to understand the idea of the exile. V'yerida tzarech aliyah, and the whole point of a descent that we go sometimes, we have a fall in life in order for a stronger elevation. Like it says about the Jewish people entering into exile when Yaakov was on his way down to Yosef. So God tells Yaakov, Anochi erid imcha Mitzrayim, I will go down with you to Egypt, Vanochi alcha gamala, and I will also rise with you. Alcha, I will rise, Gamal, I will rise with you. 2 times aliyah, 2 elevations. And then God, He's mixing all the verses together to try to understand the idea of the exile and the redemption. So now He quotes the verse that God is talking to Moshe about the redemption. And this is the sign that you've been sent by me, that when you take the nation out of Egypt, you'll come back to this mountain that God is speaking to Moshe when He sends him on the mission to redeem the Jewish people, and on this mountain you'll receive the Torah. The Hainu al Har Sinai and the Mount Sinai b'Shas Matan Torah, when they receive the Torah, and then there'll be a revelation, and there was a revelation, panim al panim, face to face, and that's the sign of redemption. So he wants to put it all together. To understand this elevation, this idea that the Yitzia of Mitzrayim, the completion or the sign of redemption is the receiving of the Torah, first we have to understand the idea of the Golus. It says, Anochi eredimcha, I will, Hashem is saying, I will go down with you, Mitzrayim to Egypt. Seemingly, this statement is not understood. Why? This expression that I will go with you, I will accompany you, is only an expression that we could attribute to humans. Why? Because the person that is accompanying you, he himself or she herself was not in that place either. And now when you go down, he or she will go down with you, because neither of you are there, and I'm going to accompany you there. But by God, there's no place void of God. There's no place that He's not, that He has to go down. It says it's Shemaim V'Sa'aretz Animale. God fills the entire world. So what does it mean God's going to go down with the Jewish people into Egypt? He's there already. There's no place that doesn't have God. The idea is, this is what our rabbis have taught us, that we have to also mention, this is going to the Mishnah Brachos, we talk about it in the Haggadah, that we also mention the liberation and the exodus of Egypt by nighttime. It means we say the Vayomer, Shir Hashirim, we mention it by night. Pirush, what does it mean by night? Not just by night of every single day, the night of the day. We also mention Yetzias Mitzrayim. It means that too, but it also symbolizes something else, which means B'chol HaGolius. No matter what exile you will be in, meaning we left Egypt 3,000 years ago. We're in the Egypt. We're in the Galus of Edom, of Esav, of Rome. So what's this have to do with Mitzrayim? So that's what the rabbis have taught us. Kol hagolios v'shibad hadomis leilos. Anytime you go into a night situation, you have to remember the concept of the message of Mitzrayim. Why? Shekol b'chinas hagolus u'b'chinas galus Mitzrayim. That by definition, an exile is Egypt. And the Alter Rebbe will explain what that means. And same thing about redemption, with regard to redemption. It says, when God wants to inspire us about how the redemption is going to be speedily in our time, He tells us through the Navi Micha that just like in the days of Egypt, there will be wonders in the times of Moshiach. So we see that the Geula, the redemption, is also connected to the concept of Egypt. And just like there was an exile in Egypt, and what was the definition of the exile in Egypt? The Torah tells us. How did they define it? Hard work. They were slaves. With mortar and all this, the stones and the bricks. So too in every galus that has the hard work. It may not be we may not be being whipped by physical whips and schlepping physical stones, but the concept is there. Even though we can't say we're exactly the way it was, a replica of Egypt. There's still the concept of hard labor. And also with the mortar and the stones and the bricks, which in a ruchniistic way, in a spiritual way, we're struggling, we're enslaved spiritually. As the Zohar says, what does a chomer mean? That is the kal v'chomer of Torah, of the Talmud. Levenim da liben hilchasa, to whiten the laws. B'chol avay the kasha b'sad, the brisa is the brisa. Okay, this is the Alter Rebbe saying this hinting, but what the Alter Rebbe is hinting to us is that a person, the Rebbe talks about this in the early years, that a person has to go through hard labor. The choice is yours if you're going to throw yourself in the hard labor of Torah, trying to understand the Kal V'chomer. The Kal V'chomer is to understand the theories of Torah. To whiten the law means to get clarity of the law. To really understand the Brisa, the expansion of the Mishnah. Or you're going to have avodah kasha kipshut. You're going to have hard difficulties in life. But the idea that a person is going to have an easy life in Galus, that doesn't exist. Either you're going to toil in Torah, and that's going to be a toil in understanding of Torah, or you're going to toil physically. To understand this, in Yidarshu Bagada, when we talk about the story of the Egypt in the Haggadah on the time of by the Passover Seder, we say Shemeru Chaye Aveseinu b'Mitzrayim. And that's one of the reasons we eat the maror. The maror is the bitter herbs. Why do we eat it? Because our life was bitter in Egypt. Our life was made Shemeru. They made our lives bitter of our forefathers in Egypt. So he's going to go into what is the idea of Aveseinu. Seemingly, it's a simple statement. Our fathers means our forefathers. But Aveseinu also represents a concept within our Avodas Hashem. Pirish, what is the fathers? We know the fathers are compared to the three main midos of Chesed, Gvur, and Tferes, which all the midos, all the emotions and attributes have either an effect of love or fear, which is Ava v'yira, love, fear, v'rachmanis, and compassion. V'chayusam, and what gives life to how you feel? What's the fuel of feelings? Heim hamoichin is the mind. When you understand something, you can't have compassion, love, or fear if it's not based on a foundation of knowledge and information and moyach. So moichin is intellect. Shehein hachachma bina, which is the wisdom and understanding, begadlus Hashem, the greatness of Hashem, ladas, to know. When a person understands and knows, ki ein oid mulvade, there's nothing else aside from God, v'shamayim umimal, in heaven, v'alars mitachas, or on earth, l'mayla adin keitzu l'made den tachlas, from the highest to the lowest level, l'dal sitrin on the four sides. And this is information. And his boinin is contemplation, like we learned last week. When a person has this intellect and understanding, So what it gives birth to is Nolda v'nisayra midas ava, and that will give you love. B'kerev kol echad v'echad, v'chein yira, and also fear, because God is everywhere. Understanding the how the entire world is nullified to God, created and constantly given existence by God, creates an emotional reaction of love and fear. And then, of course, he's going to explain the Rahmanas in a second, the compassion of that. If you don't have the love and fear, right? If you're not feeling love and fear, so you're feeling there's a compassion for you that you can't even awaken within yourself the feelings of love and fear. Kikol nitzis misrael, because he says like this: every spark of a Jewish person, of a Jewish soul, yesh by bechinas aviv yira, has this love and fear. Vehein hein atzmus hanasham, that's the essence of your soul. Okay, here he's going into combine the concepts of how love is developed by a Jew is not because you're gifting, so to say, you're giving yourself the love and fear that through the knowledge. The knowledge helps you reveal that spark that's within you already. So that's what he's saying. Kikol nitzes, every spark of a Jewish person, Yisrael, yesh by bechinas avira, has this love by definition. Vehein hein atmis nefesh, that's the essence of your soul. V'chein knesses Yisrael. So to the Jewish people, Chibur Kol and Shames, which is all the souls together. Nikras Bas Nadiv is the daughter of the giver. Who's the giver? Bita Shel Avram Avinu Shenikran Nadiv. Every one of us is a descendant of Avram, who's the giver, who gave us the power to love God. Ish Chesed. And why is he called the giver? Because he's a kind person. Hamisnadiv Chesed, that gave kindness to all the world. V'nikra Avinu, why is he called our father? Because one of the definitions of a father is that we inherit from him the natural love that we have. He was an adiv, he was a lover of God. He inherited that to his descendants, the bitay, the bas nadiv, and therefore essentially every single Jewish person has love. So why do we have to reveal it? Why do we need the moyach? If we have the love based on our Yerusha, it's like money in the bank. Why do we have to need moyach? Why do we need to have the mind to reveal the love? So he continues, Rak mipnei, because that's the definition of galus. That's why it's called galus. Why? What's galus? Galus is not a conclusion of a reality of difficulty. The galus is why is it difficult? Why is it difficult? Because, hey, Danny, is because you're not understanding your inheritance. You don't understand that you have love for God. Because you have a choice and you make the wrong choices, that's the galus. Because the choice is within man, and you have the ability, means you have the natural feelings of love, but you transform that love. Instead of loving God, you love the total opposite. And that's why you have to awaken your love for God. You have the love, but you applied your love someplace else. Avram gave you the ability to love, but you're loving other things. And therefore you need to use your mind to understand what you're supposed to be loving. That's the whole basis of Song of Songs from King Solomon. Im ta'iru, im tis'ayru, you get awakened. The awakening of love. And what awakens the love? The kol daidi, the sound of my beloved knocking on the door, daifik, pounding, saying, I'm here. You're not paying attention to me. And this is what our rabbis have taught us, and we've learned this before, that Anshe Yerichai, the people from Jericho, had the custom, just by them saying, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, that verse, those 6 words, right away they said v'hafta. They didn't say the second verse that we say of Baruch Shem Kavod Malchusei Le'olam Va'ed, which is a kind of a downgrade of the message of Shema, so we can understand. Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad is just saying that God is one. And from that and alone, it right away triggered love. The right away said v'hafta. We have to kind of translate it into our life, that God is our king. And because he's our king, just like a king gives everything to subjects, he's the life of our existence. And only when we make it personal, then we could say v'hafta. But the people of Jericho, as soon as they announced God's oneness, they said v'hafta. The halach is not like them, because most people can't react that way to just the verse Shema Yisrael. But they were able to, and they said v'hafta. Just by them knowing that the God is one, And the truth in that, there's nothing else but God. Immediately they had a feeling of love for God without any hold up, without any interruptions. And that's when we finish the Shema. We finish off with emes v'yativ. Yativ is the translation of emes. This is a true statement that what we've said now about the love and fear of God is true. We don't just say the emes in Hebrew, in Lashon HaKodesh, we also translate it. That God is one, not just in the spiritual realm, but in the material, physical realm. Nothing else. There's no. God is not only our spiritual God. He's not only a spiritual existence. Anything that exists is part of God. The people of Yericho were able to understand that. When we say Baruch Shem Kavod Malchusa Li'olam Vod, what we're saying is we have to make it personal. So you're saying Shema, God is one. That's not enough. That's information. The people of Yericho, that information was enough. But the point is that we have to, because the love we have, we've just been applying the love the wrong place. And now we have to take that love and apply it, use our mind to understand, to bring our love back to where it belongs. So that's only in a healthy relationship between your mind and your emotions. That's why Mitzrayim is in the neck, right? Because the mind is here, is in the head, and your heart is in your torso, in your body. And in order to make it from your mind to your heart, it has to go through your heart. The Meitzar Goren has to go through the small space of the throat. And that place that doesn't always translate, doesn't allow for the information to yield emotional results. You may know something and still love something else, even though you should love what you know. So he says, that's only when you apply your mind to the greatness of God, and therefore you're going to try to give birth to an emotional reaction, a response to that. By applying your mind to that, you could awaken the feelings that you have of Avavayira, of love and fear, to be revealed within you, just by using your thoughts. By using the depth of your thoughts, you could awaken the natural love a Jew has for Hashem. But a person whose mind is not large enough or distracted, but it's it's small, to take in this revelation of godliness, machshavta, in their thoughts, to awaken the love. In his eyes, emuna. So what is the remedy for such a person who can't use their mind to awaken, right? To awaken their emotional reaction of love and fear for God? Litzak el Hashem b'tefillah. Call out to God, scream out to God in prayer that He should open your mind, open your heart. Your heart cries. By calling out, it awakens the ability to concentrate and to reveal. To love, to awaken the love that you can't awaken with your understanding. You cry out and beg God to open your heart. To reveal your heart. And this need, that you need to scream out to God because you can't do it directly from your mind, that itself is an experience of Mitzrayim. Meitzer Yama Chachma. Mitzrayim is from the word Meitzar, which means a contraction of Yam, of the sea. The sea of what? The sea of understanding. Your sea of understanding has been contracted, and therefore you can't awaken the love through your mind. You have to call out to God to awaken your heart. Why? Because, like I said, there's no direct flow. It doesn't flow directly from the mind to the heart. It has to go through a small, narrow space. And if your mind isn't strong enough and doesn't have the strong enough resolve, that small space of the throat, the Meitzar Garoin, is going to not allow for the information to properly go into the heart, to awaken the heart. And this is a Mammar in Torah Or. So there's very deep concepts that are kind of said in words here. A little cryptic. Yaakov leaves the Be'er, the well of 7, that is a symbol of abundance. He goes to Charan. Charan is the place we said that's where Lavan lives, but Charan is also Charan is also Goren, the throat. He goes through a narrow space, like it's known. Yodechen is a reference to those who are Kabbalists. And that's why we're bitter in Egypt. Because our fathers, our love and our fear became bitter in Egypt because we couldn't awaken our fathers, which is our love and our fear. Shachais hamidos, the vitality, the life of our emotions. Yardiv nislapshu b'meitzah gar, and had to go through the narrow passage of the throat. Vaydeza nasamar, and we became bitter because we can't feel. We don't feel God. And the worst of it is not that we have no feeling. We have feelings, but for the wrong things. Had we stayed in the well of 7, which is an abundance, it'd be much sweeter for us and much better for us. But instead, we're Mitzrayim. So what happens? So we're going to Mitzrayim. A person thinks that we're lost in Egypt. What does God tell Yaakov? Yaakov, unfortunately, he went on two sides. Eretz Yisrael is in between, right? East of Israel, Eretz Yisrael is Haran, and southwest of Eretz Yisrael is Egypt. So either he was in Haran by the Meitzer Gorain of Lavan, or he's in Mitzrayim in the Meitzer Yam in the contraction of the. But either way, it's a contraction. So Yaakov is again, he's going back to another contraction, another Meitzer. So what's God tell them? You're not alone. That's part of the avoda. Anoichi eir dimcha. I'm going with you in that experience. Pirush anoichi. What's anoichi? Not I. I as in me, but I as in me above any name. Anoichi mishanechi, I who's I. We know that there's the essence of God is like Anochi Hashem Lekecha, I'm Hashem your Lord, is above the name. A name is a person, is just a name tag of a person. But who's the person? Is Anochi. God's saying the essence of God is going with you into that experience of Egypt. Bechinas soiviv kolam, God, the way He's above the world, He's encompassing the world. Bechinas echad ve'emes, the truth, the oneness of God is going to be with you in that experience. You're not being sent away to Mitzrayim. We are going to Mitzrayim. Anochi eridimcha. So why is it a descent for God? Why does it affect God? Because God is affected when there's no revelation. Why is there no revelation? Because our minds can't awaken our hearts. So that affects God too. That God can't be revealed in the heart of a Jew. It has to go through a contraction. The revelations of God. And why does He allow Himself to be affected in such a way that He's dependent on revelation? Right? That's God. God is Kol Yochel. He's everything. Why does He need to be revealed? Why is that a descent for Him? So He's not revealed. Why does that define God? So He says, He wants to be with you, and therefore He makes Himself to be affected by you. That if you don't have revelations, a concealment for Him. When we go to Edom, we go to the exile of Rome. God is with us by choice, and He gets affected. Not just He's with us from the outside. He Himself is being contracted. He needs to be revealed, and He's not being revealed. And what is left for the Jewish person because of the bitterness, the contraction, the narrow space of the throat? We don't have the love and fear, which is a passion for God. We have the belief in God. Belief is I believe, but you don't feel. The belief is solid at all times. That's what God told Moshe. God says Moshe didn't know. Moshe was trying to understand what he's dealing with. He's given a job. So like any good person who takes on a job, I need a job description. What am I dealing with? So Moshe wasn't sure what he's dealing with. He saw a lot of hard things when he was in Egypt before he ran away. So God says, yeah, they may not love and fear. There's a contraction in the revelation of revealing of the heart of Av and Yira. But you should know that Maminim b'nei Maminim. The Jewish people are always going to be believers. And he was questioning that. He was trying to understand that. I feel a begalus even in exile. The people believed. Moshe wanted to make sure that they had that foundation. Or he wasn't sure about that. But that's a belief. You can't compare something that you hear and something that you see. Seeing something is the love and fear from the mind. The ayin hamach, the eye of the mind that sees and therefore reveals an obvious feeling of love and fear. But this is hearing. This is more distant. When we saw God by Matan Torah, that's a much higher level of revelation. Right? The Torah says, you've been given to seeing, to know. Through seeing, you know. But in time of exile, we don't see this. Therefore, there's a lack in revelation. It's a contraction. And what causes it? So he's saying, Alter Rebbe is saying two things. One is that the contraction is through the Gorain, but also the problem is the solution, which is an amazing thing. It means the solution is not coming from another place. That means there's a Mitzrayim. I can't have love and fear. There's no way for me to awaken through my mind to love and fear. There is. The same place that causes the contraction is the place that you could break through through that, which is the coil, the voice that's going to call out to awaken the Rahmanis, that you should have the love anyways. You should have feeling not because your mind tells you so, but you're breaking through, within the limitations of the contraction, you're able to still reveal a love and fear through in the time of Galus. Dr. Rebbe continues, we're going to go as far as we could go in this Mammar. It has a few more pages. But even in this situation, just to call out to God there's a lot of thoughts. Rabbis machshavis is all the thoughts, atardes, that weigh on a person, right? You wanna awaken the love, you want to call out. But there's so much anxiety. Right? If the coil of tefillah is the secret to break through the Mitzrayim, but there's a lot of things that mevalvel us, confuse us in prayer. And what are the things that are the things that are sitting there, not allowing us to pray properly? We have sins. It's not just that we're in a bad situation. We've added to the problem by sinning. So we have avoinus, we have sins, hamavdilim, that separate, and don't allow for the prayer to be a proper prayer. It's mentioned many times. If a person can't daven, right? The person wonders, why can't I daven? I want to daven, I want to pray. What's going on? Why can't I pray? Why can't I feel when I'm praying? That's already on you. Because you've built up, like in the pipes, you've built up all this plugging. You're plugging the pipes, and therefore there's limitations. So he says, the Alter Rebbe says, so what do you do when you have blockage from your own sins? Therefore, it's not enough to call out. You have to mamish awaken the compassion. It's not self-pity. Not on yourself. Once you start, this is like the Alter Rebbe says in the other Mammarim, we live in a Shemitah, we live in a time of judgment. This is the Olam HaChesed. Chesed Yibana was only built, but God put in Elikim as din. So if you're going to start calling out to God and saying all your problems, God's going to say, well, what do you want from me? You just described all your problems. You are part of the problem. So says, where's the idea? Is to awaken compassion, not to feel bad for yourself. Oh, so I'm so unfortunate in my situation. By that, you're going to awaken judgment on yourself from the power of judgment. And then they're going to judge. God's going to say, you want to pray? What makes you worthy to pray? You return to God in a way of compassion. It's not that you feel bad for yourself. I want to pray. But if I'm not praying, God's not revealed in me. It's a galus of the Shekhinah. It's an exile of the Shekhinah because God can't be revealed in me. It's unfortunate for God. And you're not just saying it, it's not my problem, it's your problem. You're feeling that pain of God's pain. What does it mean? The galus of God, the spark of God, that's within you, and then has to live with your foreign thoughts, the things that are mixing you up. When you can't daven because your mind is running and there's anxieties and all the confusions, the bilbul that you have of life that kind of always, for some reason, sets on a person during prayer. It's unfortunate for God, for the spark of God that's part of that experience. Those are the dirty clothing. Because we know the Machshava, Tani teaches us, the thoughts is a lavush, is a garment. And our garments are dirtied. Why? Because we're thinking things we should be thinking. It doesn't mean inappropriate thoughts. It's inappropriate, it's zar, because it's not a holy thought. It's not a godly thought. It's not a proactive thought. And this is very bitter for the person, realizing what you're causing God. You're causing God an unpleasant experience. By day you want to get rid of those dirty garments from you. Let God reveal Himself within you. That God should be able to shine on a person. When God shines, and they'll start awakening the love through the prayer, through the call, through the voice of the tefillah. And that's why it says that when our father, which is Avram, that is the love, of the feeling of love gets captivated because he's captivated by the restrictions we place on him. So said God, Yaakov to Jacob, which is the attribute of compassion, Asher Padas Avram, that redeems Avram. The compassion we have, that we awaken for God, the godliness within us, that's trapped in our thoughts and in our issues. So by having compassion for that, so then God uses that compassion to redeem Avram, to redeem the love. Through the attribute of Yaakov, which is Bechinas Rachmanis, which is the attribute of compassion. Awakens the love, which is the level of Avram. And this is what it means, that our life was bitter. What does it mean, bitter? That through Egypt, the person goes down into their own private Egypt. A person has to figure out a strategy. I'm in Mitzrayim. And God's there too. So it's a double problem. It's not just me. I'm schlepping God in my Mitzrayim. I'm pulling God into my Egypt. So you have to figure out, Lashis Eitzis Benafshi means you have to figure out a strategy, Litzik al Hashem b'tefillah, how you could call out to God in prayer. Ulismarmer b'mar nafshin, to have a true bitterness, achayav, on your situation, on your life. I knew, what does it mean, your life? Not because you can't pay your bills or because whatever other issues that are bothering you in your own personal life. That's your life. The godliness within you. That's your main vitality. The things that are lacking in your material life, in this world, that's not life. That's why it's hard. It's not easy. Because the service of the heart, tefillah, which is to pray properly, to properly call out and cry out to God, that your heart is genuinely crying out to God, not because you are lacking health, wealth, happiness, or something else, but for the lack of revelation of godliness within you. You call out through your voice, begroinim is your voice, that you could reveal godliness through your throat. That's not easy. That's avodah kasha. You need to use the sword of your mouth, so to say, through the tefillah. Lahachris kol klipas, to cut off all the unnecessary, the klipas, all the peels, all the tuma, the impurities. But Teves sheyesh la'adam, all the desires that you have that are kind of weighing on you, the confusion, everything. See, what happened in the tree of knowledge, Eitz Hadas Tov Ra, is that when there's lack of purity, there's the lack of definition, everything is mixed. The Alter Rebbe taught us earlier, there's no real good with bad, there's no real bad without good. It's very hard to separate the two. Being a kamayla mashal, and this is like a sword. Shehi cherev, a sword. She shall barzel kasha, of a very strong steel, iron. Yoichel lamed afilu b'fnei davar kasha kavanim. A true strong steel, iron sword could break even stones. V'leitifkoim b'hakasei behem, and the sword itself won't get damaged. But if it wasn't a strong enough metal, then banging against your issues, you're going to break the sword as opposed to breaking the issues. Kacha tefillah, so too when it comes to davening, it's not easy. Davening is an exhausting experience. Some people find davening a haven, which it's also. But it's also, if you're really working, if you're trying to work, not escape, but to change yourself through davening, to awaken the love constantly that you should be a changed person through davening, it's not easy. That's why avoid the kasha, tefillah, to daven is not easy. What does it mean difficult? To properly call out to God. To stand against all obstacles. Bias from within side. Bias means your house. Things that are within you that are issues. And of course, obstacles that are facing you from the outside. L'shaber kol haklipa, to break all the impurities. V'tayves, all the desires. Hachazakis that are very strong, that are pulling you to other things. And to have only love and yearnings for Hashem, that's not easy. And to have a broken heart within you. Even if your heart is a heart of stone, through properly davening, you could soften that water down that hard stone. And he calls he says, why did this difficulties? Why we challenge? Why is it so hard? Because that's the definition of exile. That's the definition of exile. He says, Masha Enkein, however, that's when the temple was standing. We weren't praying, and we didn't need to break through these difficulties. We weren't challenged as we are now. We didn't need to daven the way we're davening now. He's talking mainly about the first temple. Then a person's mind was very strong and didn't have to go through, it was strong enough to push through the limitations of the throat. And was able to awaken the ha'ir, to awaken the heart within the depth of the person, just through thought, without the rachmanis, without the koil, without the voice. A person in the time of the temple was able to awaken their love. They had a very, even in the first temple, even in the second temple, the version of prayer was much smaller than what we have today. Let's go a little further. So too, where did we have all the questions of Torah? When did the Torah become more complicated? And the Torah Sheba'al Peh was written down. That's all in the second temple's time. He says, Torah, so too when it comes to Torah's Managolas, also the Torah has difficulties now. We have to go through the Kal V'chomer. Like it says, like it says in Shir Hashirim, Shishim Hema Malchus, the 60 kings, Shmoinim Pelakshim, and the 80 Pelagishes, which are part wives. And there's no limitations. Achas hi einasi. One is my dove, tamasi, my completion. And Pirush Bizarre, this means, what is Shlomo Melech saying? Shishe Malchus, what are the 60 melachos? That is Shisha Masechtes, the 60 tractates of the Mishnah. Shmoinim Pelakshim, these are the Brisas. Those are the extensions. The Mishnah is the short version of the Mishnah. The expansion of the Mishnah is the Brisa. Allah say Mispur, and the worlds that have no limits, these are the laws. So these became multiple in the time of Golas. Achasi Anasi, one is my dove, Tamasi, my completion. Pirsh Tamasi Shleimasi, my completion. Shein Shleimus Etzlei Kivyachol, Zulus Knesset Yisrael. God has no completion. It's an amazing thing what the Rebbe is saying. We talk about the greatness of God. Einod Mavado, there's nothing else but God. And we talk about Ani Avaya Lo Shanisi, I don't change. But what makes God complete? What makes God Tamasi? Shleimus Etzlei Kivyachol, Zulus Knesset Yisrael. The Jewish people made God complete. If we're not complete, He's not complete. What is the footstool of God? Is this world. We are like children of God. Ubra, and a son is Kara Davu, who is like an extension of the Father. Like he says, all the revelations of the world, of the higher worlds of revelation, that everything bows to God, that all the higher worlds are nullified to God, they're actually nullified to God. But in this world, there's a lot of obstacles. There's people that are oivet kacham, those who were serving the stars, those who were rebelling against God. But who is one nation in the Aretz, in the land, in the complications? Means what the Alter Rebbe is saying is that God is one in the heavens. That's obvious because there's no challenge in heaven. But in this world where there's concealment and there's a lot of people that are not recognizing God, who's like the Jewish people, that they find the echad, the oneness of God, even in this world. To make their hearts one with the oneness of God, and for us to nullify, for an angel to nullify themselves to God is not a challenge. For us to nullify, we also have rutzains, wants, but to nullify our wants, for God's want, that's a challenge. That's why His completion is only by us. He's not complete by the fact that an angel is subjects himself to Hashem. It's like a limb of a person that nullifies to the essence of the person. Even the foot, that's outside of the main part of the body. Even the nails of the feet. As long as you're connected To the body, it's connected to the body. If you cut the nail off the body, it's no longer a part of the body. If God forbid a limb is taken off the body, even if a nail is taken off the foot, it's no longer part of the person. What makes you part of the person if you're connected? If you're not connected, you're not part of the person. You once were part of the person. That because you have a taiva, you want to separate. Shenifra, the separation from Hashem, from the oneness of Hashem. When you want your own agenda, so you like a limb that separates itself from the person. It's like one of your limbs have been cut off by nikta tziparon, or your nails have been cut off. From the greater big of creation, you've cut yourself off from Hashem by no longer being nullified to God. If you want to really cleave to God, you can't be connected to God without being nullified to God. Hey, love. Not to have any other wants. Like it says, that only what's within heaven I want. I don't want to have anything outside of God, anything outside of heaven. Why do we make God complete? We make God complete when we nullify ourselves to God. And how do we nullify ourselves to God today? It's through Torah. And Torah is itself a challenge to find the halachas, to whiten the halachas, to understand it all. So he says, when we awaken within ourselves our bittul, our nullification to God, God responds to that. I'm to my beloved, and to me is his desire. But I have to be to my beloved. You want to reveal, you want to complete God, you have to be to my beloved. Like when a person wants to awaken their desire for Hashem to give nachas to God through joy, that Israel takes joy in their Creator. So too God takes joy in us. He responds to us. When we take joy to be part of Hashem, He wants to be part of us. And he says, and that's the idea of whitening the law. When we want to understand, we take a passion to understand what is the halacha. This is the Rebbe says this all the time, that the idea that a person wants to be connected to God, it's not enough you want to be connected to God. And you say, I love God, I want to make God happy. Where's the happiness come? It's in the details. Hashem made it that it's in the details. There's a laws, 613 laws, and the widening of the laws, understanding of the laws, getting deeper into the laws, that is the true connection, the dveikus. That's the true ani ledodi v'alai chukasai, and his desires towards us. Like it says in Yechsiv, he quotes Shir Hashirim again. Shchoira ani, I was black, v'nava, but I'm beautiful. Seemingly, the Torah, the oral Torah looks dark. It seems very concealed. We don't see godliness in all these laws. Seemingly, we see no light. A person says, "Why? Don't tell me." A lot of people, you talk to people, because of that, they don't want to have to do with the Torah. You say, "Oh, I don't want to put on tefillin. Why? I don't understand. What's tefillin have to do with God? I'd rather meditate." But so Shlomo Melech says that. Shchorani, it seems there's a darkness in the laws. It's just talking about worldly things. Binyan Isra'im, how do you plan things? Binyan Shemaminis, what is the laws of money? What's the law, who owes who what? Beinish l'reyu, between people. That's all. A lot of the laws are about mundane things. Ava be'emes v'nava, but you're not seeing the darkness for what it really is. It's really beautiful. Shekol hadvarim shebehem yisaydam b'hari kodesh. There's something very deep. They just reveal themselves in our world like that. But at their root, they're connected to something very, very high. And that's the true way to find godliness, not only through meditation and not doing the mitzvahs. That the high wisdom of God, this is what God decided. That if so-and-so claims this and so-and-so claims that, the law is going to be this. That's why he says, the Libun Hilchasa, you want to really connect to God, reveal the desire God has for you. You want to have a proper relationship. It's how God says that you should have the relationship. And what's that relationship to Torah? To the widening of the laws, the details of the law. You hear people talking, can I do this? Could I do that? Can I move the cholent pot? Can I move the cholent pot? People say, well, it's all these small details. It seems too detailed. But Libun Hilchasa, that's where in the details is where you're going to find the beauty of God. It's in a wisdom that we don't understand. This is the widening of the law. The laws may seem dark to you, they may seem lifeless to you, godless to you. You have to whiten them with the whitening of from above, knowing what does Hashem want? What is the law? What does Hashem want? Hashem, He has simcha mitis, and to do that with joy, with simcha. Hashem echad, in the one God, nullify what you want for what Hashem wants. And you don't want anything else but what Hashem wants. And how does He tell us what He wants? Enclose the P'tairasi in His Torah. What does it mean, stand up, come to me, my rayasi, my beautiful. Pirish lach la'atzmech, you want to come to yourself, you want to find the soul within you. You know that you're the first thought, and you want to get reconnected to that original thought that God had in creation, which is Yisrael, the Jewish people. They come one with Hashem, that's through Torah mitzvahs. And by whitening the laws, we reveal what we learned about in Vayetze, the whitening of Hashem, the simplicity. That God shines His face towards the Jewish people. And Hashem, the joy and the pleasure God takes, His face is lit up. Like it says, Yar Panav Itanu Sala, God shows His face to us in a loving way. Sha'aris Panim Hi Itanu, it's towards the Jewish people, Ba'al Yadenu, and through the Jewish people. As we awaken, again, the galus is that God is not revealed in us. And God wants to be revealed in us. He made Himself dependent on His completion if He is revealed in us. And how do you reveal yourself, and how do you reveal godliness? We talked about the prayer and the Rachmanas, and how does it really become one with us in the Liban Hilchasa, in the laws of Torah? And by connecting to the laws of Torah, we're connecting the essence of our soul with the essence of God and revealing that within us. Like there's a reflection in the water. When you look into the water, you see a reflection. You want to see God's reflection, you have to look into the water. You have to look into the water of Torah. And let's just finish till hey. And the completion of this revelation through Torah is going to be in the time of Moshiach, Moshiach. Then we're going to see God eye to eye. Just like in the time of the giving of the Torah. The Yosim is even more than the giving of the Torah. The giving of the Torah was only temporary. After that, not too much further after that, there was the sinning of the golden calf. Then there's going to be a consistent, constant revelation, without any separation. It's going to be forever. But now that's going to happen when Moshiach comes. What's our job now? He says, takes a lot of toil. To reveal this joy. It's not just to do it, it's not mechanical. You have to reveal the joy, the simcha, in God through the whitening of the law, the tool of whitening the law. What's the excitement? A person gets excited about halacha. That excitement you have, that should be about finding out what is the halacha. So that's how we do it in the time of Galus. It's not going to have to be found only through the simcha of the whitening of the law, but we're going to see revelation of godliness. Okay, we're going to stop over here. The Rebbe continues to explain the different levels of the continuation of the revelation of Moshiach, but the idea of perach, he speaks about the idea of using. I just want to read one. We have a few minutes. I just want to skip down to Zion, because this is a nice idea in Avoda. It says like this. He's talking about when a person is enslaved in themselves. So he says like this: the solution of being enslaved in yourself is mashkasev beferach. It says they had to do perach, hard work. Beish by base perushin. You could say there's two ways to break down a person. Echad lashon tarech umlacha kaveda, through hard work. Sometimes it's not the actual work. It's not because you have to carry 500 pounds. Machas matzah. That's the work itself is not hard. One of the things that Paroi did was that. What does it say that he did hard work? Perach. He took things that you weren't accustomed to. Women did certain jobs in Egypt, and men did certain jobs. He made the women do the men's jobs, and the men do the women's job. It wasn't that it was harder. It's just that they weren't used to it. And by not being used to it, that makes it very challenging. You know what you're good at. You know, a person knows what I'm good at. I'm not good at doing this. I'm good at doing something else. The part says, too bad. I don't care what you're good at or you're used to doing. I'm going to make you do something else. And then in avoda, that means breaking yourself. It's very possible that woman's work is easier than man's work. Why was it difficult? Because you had to get out of your nature, and what you're accustomed to. So too, when a person needs to fix their own midos, to love Av and Yir, to love and fear God, between man and God, to not do things you shouldn't do, or to do what you should do. So you have to go against your nature. If your challenge is that you're not naturally a certain person, you have to break your nature. That's avodas perach. It's not that it's hard on its own. It's hard because you're not used to it. That's one thing. The second thing in avodah, he says, "Apirish bezu lashon perach." Talk nicely. Perach means peh is mouth, rach is light. Yasim adam libe. This is the Alter Rebbe says a person to understand. Kamoi kas, when it comes to anger, kina, jealousy, the godless self-promotion. I'm better than the next person. This is the rule, he says. Talk lightly, talk nicely. It's going to calm down the anger. Not just that your friend won't be angry because you talk nicely to them. Your anger will calm down. Don't fan your anger. Don't fan your jealousy. Don't fan your ego. Stop. And your person says, it's just words. The words are very important. And all the bad attributes between you and another person. So he says perach is two things. One is between you and God, and one is between you and another person. And where does it come? It comes from being difficult, gvura, being judgmental. Dial it down a bit. Talk nicely. That's a huge tool in avodah to help reveal within each other and in avodas Hashem. All right, everyone. Laila